Welcome to the Iowa Outdoorsman Podcast. Brought to you in part by Dakota Decoy Company, Jansen Farms and Vitalize, Boyd Harness Company, and now your hosts, Brandon Hilton and Randy Thomas.
All right, we are back on. I'm Brandon Hilton, and this is the Iowa Outdoorsman Podcast. With me, as always, Randy Thomas. How you doing, Randy?
Wonderful. Glad to be recording.
Yeah, as per usual, we've had some technical snafus, but we got it worked out. I'm going to blame our guest, my old college wrestling teammate, Central Iowa native that is now out in Northeast Washington, working as a wildlife program manager for the Bart. Who you working for?
Kalispel tribe.
Yes.
We're
We're going to talk to Bart today about his background being from Central Iowa and where he's at now and what he's doing and just kind of change of pace. So, hey, Bart, maybe just go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and what you're doing.
You bet. Yeah, grew up in South Central Iowa, down Madison County, close to Truro, St. Charles area. Went to I-35 for first 10 years or so, and then ended up in Norwalk and graduated from Norwalk in 2000. Went to college with Brandon at Simpson, kind of wrestled my way through my undergrad, and as soon as I was able to get out west, I moved out to Eastern Washington through a job with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So Saylorville Lake's a Corps of Engineers project. I was able to get on with them in college. And then they have a program where upon graduation, you can transfer positions. So I was able to take a position out in Eastern Washington on the Columbia River Wildlife Mitigation Projects. Worked out there for a few years and then took the job with the Kalispel tribe further up in Northeast Washington. So we're way up northeast, the eastern border of our counties, Idaho, and the northern border is British Columbia. So about as far northeast Washington as you can get. I've been with them now for, I think, 13 years. Started as their wildlife biologist and now wildlife program manager.
That's pretty awesome. So when I think of the tribes, typically I think it's all hired from within. How did you get into that position with the tribe? Is it just a regular job posting one would see, or how's that work?
Yeah, sort of. The job is open to the public. The tribe is pretty small. There's not that many tribal members, maybe 400 or 500 tribal members total. But between all of their different enterprises and headquarters and all their, we have a big fisheries department, big wildlife department. Between all of the employees, I think there's like 1,500 employees. So it's a big deal. So tribal members obviously have jobs and have those positions, but there's all these other positions that need filled. So they're hiring from the community. We're lucky to have a really sophisticated natural resource department. We have a lot of professional staff. I think we have 3 or 4 wildlife biologists on staff. Just in the wildlife department, I think the fisheries department probably has half a dozen or more. So a lot of tribal members working in our department and a lot of non-tribal members also. It's just they're hiring the best person for the job whenever they can.
Awesome.
So what's the scope of the job? Like, what's the motivation for the tribe to have such a large conservation department?
Well, so the tribe, there's a whole thing, and we could go on and on and on about treaties and different things. So the Kalispel tribe's not a treaty tribe. They're an executive order tribe. When the executive order was signed, there wasn't that many tribal members, and they've since grown. But as a result of, when this thing was signed, their reservation was assigned to them, and it was small, and it didn't really meet the needs of the Kalispel people. The idea of a reservation is to provide a big enough landscape for them to have a place to hunt and fish and farm if they wanted or whatever. So their reservation was small, but there was this tribe. As a tribe grew, they recognized the need for, this larger footprint out into the landscape if they want to have access to deer and elk and moose and salmon and all the things that the Northwest kind of has to offer. They needed to develop a department that could then cooperate and partner with the agencies that manage those species on the larger landscape, and provide access to the tribal members. So we've extended our footprint just in the last, 10 years in a big way into Idaho, and we're having tribal members go over, and now they're elk hunting on our wildlife mitigation properties in Idaho. We've got, tons of waterfowl and big game opportunities on the reservation, and then also on our wildlife mitigation sites. So, the tribe only has about 4,500 acres of actual reservation land, and they can kind of do whatever they want on that. We set the hunting seasons, manage those species however we see fit, but on our mitigation lands, we're beholden to the state season. So we picked up about another 5,000, 6,000 acres of mitigation properties across Northeast Washington and North Idaho that the tribe can go over and hunt during the state seasons on.
So I think that's pretty cool and I think a lot of people probably don't know that their season dates and bag limits and everything are kind of set within the tribe itself for a lot of things. When thinking of the tribe season dates and limits and what we have set by the state or set by the federal level, what would you think is the biggest difference between those? I mean, is somebody hunting ducks in August, or what are some of the biggest differences you see between kind of season dates, bag limits, and what we have?
So there's not that many differences, really. We manage our big game animals similarly to the state. We have a smaller group of people hunting, though, right? So we're able then to manage this, even though it's not a great big piece of ground, it's not a big number of hunters. So we're able to manage that for people to kill more deer, more elk or moose when they're available. I think that the biggest difference would be just the number of users. So we have a small number of users. It's way easier to manage. Typically, they're not the group that's arguing with us about season setting and all the things. We trust them to manage the resource in a way that's sustainable also, in the same way they trust us to kind of provide these sideboards for the seasons. And we all care about the resource in the same way,
Yeah, and sorry, Hilton, not to jump over you, but is it possible for a non-tribes member to hunt in this land in any way, or how does that work?
It is
If they were
possible.
invited.
Yeah, it is possible. Although the kind of new framework, right? And we used to allow non-member hunting, particularly for waterfowl. We'd let waterfowl season passes or licenses or whatever you wanted to call them for non-members to come hunt our mitigation stuff, and that was really good hunting. As our tribal membership has started to show more interest in that, we've cut that back. So right now we don't allow non-member hunting, but that's not to say that, at some point that could change, or I don't know if it will or not. But it's not illegal, but right now it's just not happening.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Do you get a hunt?
No, I haven't. I use my dogs on the reservation somewhat regularly for cougar work, so I keep hounds. Over the last, 15 or so years, I've been around the reservation. I don't know how many. I've probably treed 75 or 80 lions on tribal property that were hanging around homes, or lions that needed killed for, attacking pets or livestock or whatever that might look like. So that's the only sort of hunting that I do, but I don't kill anything on the reservation. If I end up on a depredation pursuit for a lion, I'll call a tribal member that's keen to kill a lion, and, they're going to take the hide and the skull and the meat and all the things and use that.
So when you say basically when you're hunting the lion, is that part of your job duties, or is that more like an additional thing you do? I guess what are some of your major job duties, and is that part of it?
It's sort of become part of it. Yeah. So my job, I was the wildlife biologist for a long time. I had a cougar research project going on where I was capturing and putting collars on cougars all over Northeast Washington. I partnered with the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife and collared a bunch of cougars for them on a project they had going on. So having the dogs along and catching cats and cougars on the reservation, around the reservation is part of the job. Since I've gotten sort of promoted into this program manager job, I feel like I'm doing a lot more timesheets and personnel nonsense. So not as much field time as I would like, but I'm still kind of the only staff member with hounds and that ability. So when a cat shows up and, when a tribal member calls, I'm going to drop what I'm doing and go help them out.
Yeah. It's
Sure.
probably easier to capture cougars with martinis than hounds. Or wait, we're not talking about the same cougars. Never mind.
Different kind of cougar there. Hey, Bart, while we're on the topic of hounds and lion hunting, you were recently on a meat eater episode, weren't you?
Yeah, that we recorded that quite a while ago, and it was kind of a weird thing. And I don't know the circumstances behind. I don't know their marketing or anything else, but we recorded that probably 5 or 6 years ago up in North Idaho. That Bruce, the guy that's in the video with me, we still run around together all the time. He's been helping with this research project that I just wrapped up for the last 4 years. I have dogs together and we hunt together all the time. But yeah, we recorded that like 5, 6 years ago. Bruce owned the outfit up at Priest Lake, Idaho, and we were catching cats on the regular. And I was on a podcast with them. I was talking about caribou. Most people don't realize we had caribou in the lower 48, and they happen to be right here in the Selkirk Mountains where we work. So the tribe was real heavily involved in caribou recovery, and that was kind of my job the first few years, worked for the tribe. And one of the limiting factors for that caribou population was cougars. So I'm on the Meat Eater podcast, and I'm talking about caribou stuff, and said we need to maybe get after some of those big tomcats in the high country in the Selkirks. And Steve's ears perked up, and after the show, we ended up kind of putting this idea together, and yeah, it all came together, and we had a cool episode. But it kind of just sat on the shelves for a little while, and then Onyx picked it up and kind of made it an Onyx exclusive. It's on YouTube, but now it's a little more mainstream and it's getting some attention, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. In person, I've actually never met Steve in person. Is he about as cool as he seems on all the episodes and the podcasts and everything?
Yeah, he is. I mean, he'd be like, he's doing the things that we want to be doing, right? He's just one of our type of people that, there's only enough space for a few people to get through and make it to that level. And he did it, and he's worked hard at it, but he's a good dude, and he's just easygoing, down to earth, smart guy.
I watched him on a Joe Rogan podcast once. Really enjoyed that episode. Well, let's talk a little bit. We were talking a little bit about you kind of want to talk about growing up in Iowa and some of the pursuits that you had here. But first, let's talk about. There you are. Let's talk about your perspective as a non-resident. Now, you brought that up off camera, trying to draw in so you can come back and hunt your home state. Give us your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a weird thing. It's my family still has property there, and all the friends that I hunted with all through grade school, through high school, through college are, a lot of them are still right there hunting the same properties, and it's like damn near impossible for me to go back and deer hunt anymore. It seems like I have to go through the whole rigmarole, and I started buying points, and it's such a strange thing, as a high schooler and into college. I was just wild about whitetail hunting. It's all I wanted to do, and I'd spend 60 days a year out chasing whitetails around between archery and muzzleloader seasons. And it's like they're doing everything they could to get us to shoot deer as a resident, and now here I am, a non-resident, and I don't know what I've got to do to get a tag. I've got 2 or 3 years invested at $50 a year. I don't know who I got to talk to pull a tag, but good grief. what a pain in the ass. I keep thinking I'm going to draw, and then this point creep, it's the same thing we deal with out west. And you got the point creep, and I don't know what everybody's applying for. And I'm putting in for the archery season just because that's the time of year I want to be back to visit family and do that stuff. And yeah, I've been shocked by that. It's hard. I'm
So
almost, yeah, I want to bring my hounds back and hunt. I was just back in North Dakota last week, coon hunting there, and I thought that'd be kind of fun to come back and run coons and then maybe bobcats also. But I don't know if there's a bobcat hound season in Iowa yet. I'm not sure about that.
I don't even know.
I don't know if there is either, but kind of going back to the out of state process, being as you're from Iowa and you're really familiar with their natural resources and being in the wildlife management side of things, do you feel that how difficult it is to come to Iowa to hunt is the right thing? Do you think it should be easier? Do you think it's the right move to protect the resource? What's your perspective on it? I know that might be tough to answer.
Yeah, I mean, it is tough to answer. I think Iowa DNR does a bang up job managing the resource, like overall, from what I've seen. I think the season layout particularly for deer, having the most of the gun, most of the harvest occur after the rut makes a lot of sense. A lot of western states, Washington has a rifle deer season that ends November 19th. Like the whole month of November, almost you're out there shooting rutting bucks. Like that's not a good way to manage for, quality deer. So I think Iowa they have their finger on the pulse of big game, deer management pretty closely. As far as non-resident access, I don't know. All the states are doing that, right? I hunt Wyoming and Montana and Oregon and all these western states, and that's just the way it is. I don't know. A lot of states have a 10% allocation for non-residents, and I don't know if that's fair. When we're out here in the West, we hunt almost all federal ground, so I feel like I own it as much as, you or Brandon might. But in Iowa, it's private ground, and the deer belong to the state, and it's just one of those things where non-residents, we should kind of expect to take it in the shorts, trying to get a tag.
Yeah,
Well,
every year. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, short of South Dakota, that's the only state I really know that's tough to get into for waterfowl hunting. But it seems like when it comes to, upland and waterfowl, everything's pretty liberal as far as non-residents. But once you start talking big game, everything just kind of changes, and getting in from an outsider's perspective isn't easy. So I have mixed emotions on it, because part of me is like, stay out of here. We don't need a bunch of out-of-staters coming to kill it. I can't kill a big buck. Why should they? Maybe that's just because I'm not very good at deer hunting. So running those hounds again, are out there when you run them, is it exclusively mountain lions? And are you running the same dogs on mountain lions and coons and bobcats? Or how does that work?
Yeah, so the dogs they're cat dogs primarily. The bobcats and lions are the same. Bobcats are harder to catch than lions, actually. The fresh lion track is usually a pretty straightforward thing, and we can catch them pretty quick. Bobcats are a little tougher, but we run those dogs on coons and bears. So that's kind of the things that we'll chase. We don't let them run coyotes or any other off game. Out here, we have quite a few wolves, so we got to make sure they're not messing with them. But yeah, they're just cat dogs, and they're the same dogs. I could bring these dogs back and have them in Iowa, and they'd be fantastic coon dogs. We could take them out to whatever the Carolinas, and they'd be bang up bear dogs or whatever. They're just hounds that you just break them to whatever you want them to chase.
So how often do you bring them back to Iowa to run coons?
I haven't yet. That's what I was just actually thinking that maybe I need to abandon this deer hunting idea and come back, and I could squirrel hunt all day and coon hunt at night and have a bang up time. I'd probably enjoy that more than sitting in a damn tree stand for a week straight.
I agree. We have way too many raccoons here. So
Yeah, we had a
the kind of bringing your two backgrounds together as an Iowa outdoorsman and a cougar guy. Every year it seems like we're seeing more and more mountain lions in Iowa. I've seen one in person. My neighbor said there's one behind their house at one point. What's your perspective on how likely Iowa holds a cougar population, or do you think they already do? Or are they just migrating?
I mean, yeah, I think a lot of those are cats that are just moving around. They do that for sure. I think Iowa could support a cougar population without that many issues, really. The landscape that I live and work in, we're on 25 acres here, but if I showed you out the window that, you can see 4 or 5 houses right here from our front door. So we're not big remote mountains, and there's lions on our property, several times every year. Lions end up causing trouble in places where there's a lot of small livestock. It seems like sheep and goats and things like that. They don't mess with cattle often around here for sure. I've had, in 15 years of messing around with depredations and different things like that, I can count on one hand how many cows and horses have been attacked by lions. It just doesn't happen very often, especially in a place where you have deer, hiding behind every corn stalk or oak tree or all the things that you have there feeding the deer. So, I mean, I kind of think if Iowa doesn't already have a few lions hanging around trying to set up a population, I think they will before too long. And I don't know that they're going to cause that many problems for you, really.
Well, and
I keep waiting for the call.
What was it?
I keep waiting. I have callers on the shelf. I have drugs and the dart gun loaded in the truck all the time. Like, I keep waiting for the call. I'll make a 22-hour drive and come back to put a dart in a cat as soon as I hear from you guys.
You bet. Well, and every year we get them coming through. They're on trail cameras. People see them. We did have a kind of urban cat here a few years ago that was up in Des Moines somewhere that was within a close proximity to an elementary school. I think raised some hares, but I have not ever heard of livestock. And there's Iowa, you go, every other acreage has goats or sheep now, especially goats. Everybody's got a herd of goats. But I've not heard once about any attacks or anything like that. Have you, Randy?
No, I haven't heard of one single attack from a mountain lion, honestly. It's usually the other way around. Gather the pitchforks and let's all go find it. So
yeah, I don't know. Last I heard, Iowa still had cougars as a non-classified wildlife, right? So people could shoot them.
Yep.
Yeah, and is in the with your background, do you think that's a good idea, or do you think they should be protected in Iowa? I
mean, that's not. It's a social tolerance is going to drive wildlife management every single time. So,
Mm-hmm.
If people start thinking there's too many deer, the DNR is going to let a whole bunch of doe tags. If people think there's too many lions, they're going to leave it as a unclassified wildlife. If the public starts thinking that lions have a place on that landscape, the state should respond and try to figure out a way to manage it like a resource instead of like a varmint.
So it kind of boils down to we are accepting that we are going to hold a population. So does that make sense?
I think just next door to you guys, South Dakota has a pretty good population of cats now, and they're
Yep.
South Dakota has a well-established population of cats in the Black Hills, and that's got connected landscape all the way into Iowa. I don't see any reason that cats couldn't set up camp there. I don't know what kind of densities we're talking about or how big of an area they might sort of establish themselves in, but the places I grew up in south central Iowa down in Madison County could certainly support cats. It's just whether or not people want to put up with them. And there will be depredations. I mean, if there's many cats around and there's goats around, they're going to find each other. The cats are going to take pets periodically. There's going to be a cost involved with having them out there, but you just got to decide whether or not it's worth it.
For sure. So you mentioned earlier growing up that whitetail hunting was your favorite thing. And I know you just got back from upland hunting in North Dakota with your new short hair dog. We used to duck hunt and goose hunt together. Is running hounds on cats your favorite thing to do now? Or is there other stuff that you're doing out there, elk or caribou or whatever else? Is running cats your main thing you do?
Yeah, I think the cats is the main thing I do. It's what I do the most of. I enjoy it. I don't kill, I've killed one lion. I don't know how many I've captured, treed, caught, whatever, collared. I've killed one for myself. Early on, I had a young dog that was working well. She was kind of my first hound, and I was still kind of new to cougar stuff, and we caught a great big tom, and I killed it and had it mounted, and that's kind of my cat. I've killed a whole bunch of other ones for depredations and management activity stuff, but never as kind of a trophy, so to speak, or on a hunt, a personal hunt. But man, I like the dog work, and I like getting out in those kind of big landscapes and following hounds through country that other people just aren't going to go to, where those, you follow a cat track long enough and it's just going to take you to really cool places. So I think lion hunting's probably my favorite. Bobcat, lion, both really, really cool. I do like elk hunting. I like archery elk hunting during the rut when they're bugling, and I like that kind of hunt also. But yeah, I think if I had to pick, that's what it sounds like this question sort of is. Like if you could pick one thing that you could do, it would be chasing cats with dogs.
Quick follow up. How many hounds do you keep?
I try to hunt 3 dogs at any time, so I actually just put my lead dog down. Tipsy was a dynamite hound. She's 11 years old. I just put her down last night. So I got, yeah, thanks. I've got 4 hounds right now, but 2 of them are just 6-week-old puppies, and they're a nightmare. But I've got these other 2, they're litter mates. So they're they're Tipsy's pups. We got Boone and Kula, and they're okay. Kula's a really good dog. Boone's just okay. He's a little bit fast, but I'm kind of rebuilding right now after losing Tipsy, and here just a couple years ago I lost 2 others that were really good. So we keep dogs. I try to have a litter about every 3 or 4 years to kind of build my own pack. But I have a line of dogs that I really like. I've never bought a hound. They're all just kind of dogs that I make myself.
Nice.
Yeah, I think Hilton has more dogs than that for pheasant hunting. I swear he's got a new dog every week. I can't tell. Are they all the same dog?
Well, we're down to 2, but we did just have a litter, made our pick. She's 5 weeks old now, so I'll have a 3rd dog here soon. Yeah, we've been going. Yeah, we got a little kennel here in Iowa and enjoy breeding and keeping our line going too. And German wire hairs, they're not hounds. I don't know if you can probably teach them to treat something, I'm sure, but we use them for shooting pheasants and occasionally getting a duck or 2. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Puppies are fun to have around, aren't they, Bart?
They are. It's the kids have a good time playing with them, and it's just also it's rewarding having a puppy out of one of your dogs that you kind of know, and then raising something up from literally nothing, and trying to make it into what you want. Yeah, I don't know. You get the dog you deserve. If you put enough energy into it, you're going to have what you want. And if you're, lazy and get distracted and do all the other things, you're going to end up with 15 years of nonsense from a dog that you maybe don't love.
Well, and we talked about this the other day when I invited you on the podcast, and Randy can attest to this. He's a photographer. He does great work. His main subjects are waterfowl and dogs. Has some really cool pictures out there. But the dog work, and I don't care what you're doing. If you're chasing birds, chasing waterfowl, chasing rabbits, chasing lions, whatever, the dog work is the most gratifying part. I mean, there's all the other components, the camaraderie and the chase and the pursuit and all, but the dog work for me that's what it's all about. Because I guess at the end game, when the dog works there, then everything else means you were successful. So
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. It's funny that, the photography thing kind of spurred that. But when we go on lion hunts, and I take a lot of people out, like if a community member or whatever, volunteers or whoever, if I'm going out to capture a lion, like anybody's welcome to come along, landowners, whatever. When we catch one, we show up at the tree, and it's almost all the time, everybody's just looking up at that cat and taking pictures and trying to do this and the whole, I look through my phone and I might have like one picture of a cat maybe and 100 pictures of the dog at the bottom of the tree. It was just, dog doing this, dog, it's whatever. It's like, I don't even pay attention to that cat. I'm watching what the dogs are doing. I know what the cat's doing. He's sitting in the tree. But yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. That's the way it is though, for sure. There's that dog in the hunt saying really does mean something.
sure.
So you guys haven't talked about it. I didn't know if one of you would bring it up. Who was the better wrestler?
Well,
Oh, me, hell.
Bart had but he had a few pounds of he had a few pounds on me. Well, you were probably a 2-time All-American, weren't you, Bart?
Yeah, it was the last 2 years, but I weighed probably 30, 40 pounds more than Brandon did. And Brandon didn't cut, and I had to, even after cutting, was 40 pounds heavier than him.
I tell you,
Brandon
Bart
was
has
tough,
the funk.
man. Brandon was damn tough. He was the guy nobody wanted to get in a scrap with in the wrestling room. And he had a reputation when he showed up. Because you weren't there. You weren't there my freshman year, were you?
No. I came in. It was probably your sophomore year, and I would have been there.
Yeah.
No, maybe. I don't remember. Yeah, it was probably your sophomore and junior year. I was there for a couple years wrestling, and I was way bigger then than now.
Oh man.
I'd blow
Brandon showed up. He had a reputation. Everybody knew who he was, and he was kind of the hometown guy, but he was hard to handle, no doubt, even though I'm glad I weighed 40 pounds more than him. If I'd have been the same size, it would have been bad news.
Bart had the funkiest hips and the hardest forehead. So if you tied up with him, you're leaving with a scab. But if you shot on him, you're screwed because he got out of everything. There was nothing you could do to the guy. So yeah,
right.
I can concede that one pretty easily. But hey, here, listen to this one. This is the best story ever. We're at the Simpson Invitational. No, it was Simpson Duels, and Bart draws Cale Sanderson, the old undefeated 4-time national champion from Iowa State. And there's a picture on the cover of the Record Herald, and Cale just lifted him up in the air. Bart's all sprawled out. It's the funniest picture ever. It was a highlight of my career.
Yeah, that's good. I was doing a Superman dive right to my face. I don't know how you land on your face and your back at the same time, but it's somehow possible.
Well, that's only the best wrestler of all time. So, hey, that's all right. You're just a notch on his belt.
That's my chance to be on.
Yeah. Missed
So
it.
cool.
Darn the luck. I sat that duel out. I think I had my knee scoped or something, so I didn't even get a wrestle. Probably good for me because I don't think we won any matches that duel.
Yeah, I think we won at 125. I got a question for you guys. That's right. When I was in North Dakota here just a couple weeks ago, like the fur price, coons aren't worth anything right now. And the coons up there look like little tiny bears. I mean, they're fat and they're grain fed. I'm sure they're eating a ton of nests. There's skunks everywhere. There's no possums up there that I saw anyway. But with fur prices, and I went to the Pheasants Forever banquet, and of course, you go there and ask for pheasant permission, and people are going to probably turn you out. But you tell them you have dogs, and you want to come kill coons, and boy, they roll out the red carpet for you. They want you to do that and shoot coyotes and predators and different things. So it just sounds like there's nobody trapping and killing those small predators out there. And I'm wondering, is that because, growing up, it was kind of starting that way in Iowa. I worked in a fur shed, skinning coons down in Madison County as a kid, and we were moving 6,000-7,000 coons a year through there. But the market was kind of falling apart then. So now it's well established. The market sucks for fur. Is there anybody still hunting those little predators and kind of managing it for the, the benefit of ground nesting birds, waterfowl, pheasants, quail, whatever?
I know two. Well, I haven't seen him in a while. I know got two guys that used to trap. One was an older gentleman, and he actually caught one of my dogs in a snare. But I mean, he trapped coons and coyotes, whatever. He just one of those guys that's always did it. And then there was another guy. I don't know if he does it anymore or not. He might, but that's two. Now, when it comes to coyote hunting, boy, everybody's getting into the what's the
Thermal.
what do they call it? What do they call it?
Whatever. The fox
Calling
throws
and
calling
throwing
them or
them.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
No, they go out with the infrared scopes and the thermals, the thermal hunt. They go out and they'll sneak. I couldn't come up with a word. My vocabulary is very small.
Even when I said it 3 times.
I didn't hear you. Sorry, I didn't hear you. Thermal hunting. Yeah, there's a lot of guys getting into that, and boy, they clean them up. I know guys that have ditched just about everything else just to be thermal coyote hunters. So I think it's getting to be a pretty big deal.
Okay.
But that's the thing.
mean-
There's just no market in the fur. So,
Yeah.
nobody's going after the raccoons as much because it's just, you shoot them to shoot them, but you're wasting a bullet and you're not making any money off that fur. So
I don't know anybody that runs coonhounds anymore. I mean, I grew up running coonhounds when I was in junior high and stuff down in New Virginia, and I don't know anybody that runs coons. So
Yeah, that's a shame.
yeah,
Yeah, that is
sure.
a shame. I think that I don't know, I guess, but as now that I've got a bird dog and I'm trying to kind of keen to get the quail and the pheasants and stuff back around this little 25-acre piece that we've got here. I mean, I'm looking to get rid of some of the coons and skunks, and I look at red-tailed hawks a little differently maybe than I did a few years ago. Like there's a whole bunch of things eating our nesting birds, and I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, and you're exactly right though. And I border a big chunk of public ground that's beautiful, and we've got a fair pheasant population, at least in the first half of the year. But boy, the number of coons and skunks out here just totally unregulated, and they're doing damage. And we've got possums too, which I'm sure they do the same thing. But yeah, it's totally unregulated. There's no conservation effort as far as I know. Anybody that's still doing it is just because they have done it forever and they do it for the love of the sport, I guess, as opposed to, hey, we need to clean some of these varmints up.
I venture to guess that
gotta,
the raccoon probably about the most detrimental to our entire nesting population of everything that nests. I mean, considering they're like the perfect little predator that could swim and nocturnal, and they can reproduce so quickly. Once people realize how bad they are for everything they do, I mean, that's when we can start kind of controlling a little more. But right now, it's just the guys that hunted them were guys that made money off of fur, and that fell off, and what with it was the control of them.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. The way they hunt, them and skunks both, just the way that they move across the landscape makes them really effective nest predators. We do a lot on the reservation and around the area, but one of our new wildlife biologists is a real keen waterfowl hunter and set up a started banding waterfowl in the Pend Oreille River Valley, which there's been a lot of bands put out in the Pacific Northwest Flyway, but none in this sort of inland Northwest area. And he started trapping ducks and doing all the things, and was shocked at how many birds he was able to get and put bands on. Very few returns. We don't have a lot of banded birds in this area, but I think he's put out, over 1,000 bands just in the last couple of years. And then also some of those GPS backpack things. So we're kind of monitoring birds flying up into Canada and down into Texas and all these things. It's been a really cool project. But in the process, we've also seen coons. We put trail cameras on all those traps, and the raccoons are checking them, and they're breaking into traps, and they're trying to get those ducks when they're in there.
Huh.
So even we know they're a nest predator, but if they can dive on a hen that's sitting on a nest, they'll do that when they get the chance too.
I'll be done. That's crazy. I would love that. I would love to hear about that because we've had the banding and GPS tracking program because we've talked about that a little bit. We had Newland, Orrin Jones. Remind me his name.
Orange Jones. Yep.
Orrin Jones. Yeah, he came on. He came on the show. He's the head of the waterfowl biologist for Iowa. We talked about a goose tracking program with him, and I actually shot a GPS mallard. Me and a buddy shot one here a couple of years ago in Warren County, and got some data. It was banded, and they put the tracker on it in Memphis, down in the Cohen Wildlife Project or whatever they've got, and we've got a map from it, and it really cool. That data and that kind of research, I love that kind of stuff, and I'm sure you've probably got been able to enjoy that with your collar and cougars. It's the same thing, different animal. So pretty interesting.
It is. It's so fascinating. It's fascinating, and then also just to field truth that stuff is so cool to see what they're using. We had just had a backpack duck. Our biologist named T.C. Peterson he's the kind of the waterfowl guy for us. Put this backpack on a duck, and it took off up into Alberta. I think Alberta, somewhere's up in that prairie pothole stuff, and he got killed by some hunters from Tennessee just a week or so ago. It's a weird thing. Luckily, none of the BBs got into the backpack thing, so he's going to reuse it. But yeah, we're learning a little bit about the flyway, trying to target pintails. Found out we got way more wood ducks than anybody ever would have guessed. Yeah, if you guys you're just gonna have to plan a trip out, and it sounds like you're gonna have to plan a couple trips out. Do a winter cat chase and a springtime duck wrangling trip, and maybe throw a salmon fishing trip in there too.
Yeah, I like the sounds of that.
I do too. It sounds like a lot of fun. Take you up.
And then I'll trade you for a squirrel hunt and a coon hunt back in Iowa, since I can't get a damn deer tag anyway.
I have enough squirrels in my backyard probably to keep you busy for a week. I was just looking today, like, these things have gotten out of control.
There's another thing. I mean, too many people that squirrel hunt anymore or rabbit hunt, really. I mean, I'm sure guys plink them here and there, but it's not like when I grew up, when we went pheasant hunting, you saw a squirrel or a rabbit as long as the dogs weren't around. You couldn't shoot them in front of the bird dogs. But if you're walking along and dog's on the other side of the field and bunny runs by, or you shoot it and put it in your bag, that's me, buddy.
Yep. I did that last week in Wyoming, or a couple weeks ago in Wyoming. We were out there and we were hunting. Had the bird dog out working on some huns, and the rabbit got up and she wasn't paying attention. I killed it. And man, Brooke, my girlfriend, looked at me like I had committed a sin when I brought that damn rabbit back. It's like, where I grew up, you shot a rabbit when it jumped out in front of you.
I intended for it.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to eat it.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Well, hey, I tell you what, guys, we're coming up on a good time limit here. This has been a great conversation. Bart, it's been great catching up with you. We need to stay in touch. It's been too long. Any parting thoughts, Randy, or anything else?
No, maybe when we get up there, you guys could figure out this wrestling thing and see who's better now.
I'm old and broken, brother.
Boy, I don't know.
All right.
Brandon said he weighs less now than he did in college. I damn sure don't. I don't think we want to.
My wrestling days. Yeah, right. My wrestling days are for sure. But anyway, well, hey, thanks again, Bart. We'll stay in touch, and we'd love to have you on again sometime. And I'm sure between now and the next time we chat, you'll have some more stories of stuff you're getting into. So yeah, when you get out this way, look us up.
Yeah, I will for sure. Good talking to you guys. Thank you.
You as well. Thanks. Have a good one.